Hi, James Suarez here with the Suarez team. So, Vivian, Leslie, and I recently did a seller webinar. It's about an hour long where we talked about many different topics, including how the state of the market is and the three different buyers that are out there right now. So, I wanted to focus on the three different buyer topics. So, there's the analytical buyer, there's the emotional buyer, and then there's the bottom feeders, right? The analytical buyer is going to crunch every number that is possibly out there: price per square foot, price per square foot for the lot, the expenses of the ADU, the expenses of any additions that were done, any upgrades are done. So it's very important with the analytical buyer that we show up with statistics in order to illustrate the value. And if you're a analytical buyer, what we'll do for you, of course, is put together all of the stats, the market analysis to illustrate values. It's very important when speaking with the analytical buyer that we speak numbers, which is their language, and show up with spreadsheet after graph after spreadsheet after graph. The emotional buyer is the buyer that's probably been quarantined in their home for the last 3 months. They can't stand the 2 bedroom, 2 bathroom condo anymore. They want to be outside in a yard. They want their kids out on a swing set. And although price is important, it's more about emotion, right? There's Brian Tracy, who in sales is very famous, has a closing called the cherry tree closing. And basically what that means is, let's just say that there was a buyer who grew up and in their backyard they had a cherry tree, and it's always been their dream to own a house with a cherry tree in the backyard. And when we show that buyer property, what we try to do is go back to that emotional anchor that they have. So when we go and show them property, they say, oh, well, the backyard is kind of small. Yeah, but the backyard has a cherry tree in it. Well, the kitchen needs upgrading. Yeah, the kitchen does need upgrading, but there's a cherry tree in the backyard. Oh, the rooms are a little tight. They are a little tight, but Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, there's a cherry tree in the backyard, right? So we know what is emotionally important to these buyers, and we find them the property that has that emotional anchor, and we keep going back to it to get them to move forward. And then again, if you're a buyer, there's something very important to you. We find that match and we make sure to emphasize the importance of it, because that could be the reason why that buyer and or you decide to move forward. And then there's the bottom feeders, right? And we don't really want to deal with the bottom feeders because they are insulting. They write unrealistic offers, and we want to make sure to vet all of our buyers, those that the analytical or the emotional, those that will pay at or above market value for your home. In regards to the webinar that we did, below you will find a link if you would like to watch that webinar. There's a lot of information that Vivian and I give out. Being in the trenches every day, I think we are in a very unique window of time right now, in between the shelter in place being lifted. I'm actually at home right now doing my part, not going into the office, trying to be responsible. There may be a second wave of the pandemic where we're back in shelter in place. And also we have an election coming up as well. And the real estate market, the stock market, every 4 years does slow down the closer that we get to November. So if you do have any real estate goals, thinking about buying or selling, we'd be more than happy to share with you the insight that we get from being in the real estate trenches every day. Hope you have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy.